Hey there, welcome into Unpaid Interns. It is Monday morning, December 14th. It is the final week of the fall semester at Indiana University, and we have a very special segment for this final week of the semester. We're doing a senior spotlight. We're going to recognize and bring on a couple of the graduating IU sports media seniors, and today we have Frey on. He's current IUSTV sports director, and he's done just so many different stuff over the last 4 years with IU Sports Media. Drew, it's great to have you on today. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I've watched your show already a little bit throughout the semester, and yeah, it's fun to be a part of it.
I appreciate that. You know, you got a week left until you're a graduated senior. I'm just wondering, how does that feel?
Oh, it's absolutely terrifying. It means that I have to go out in the real world and get a job and all that sort of stuff. I can't come back to Bloomington, anytime I want, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to it. I've really enjoyed my time at IU, and I think it's prepared me well for where I'm going. And yeah, I mean, it's nerve-wracking right now because I'm sort of in limbo. I'm in between college and my first job, but I know I'm going to get there, and I'm confident that I'm going to have some fun, and that we'll see where my career path takes me. But I'm feeling good about it.
That's good to hear. I'm going to get into some just kind of reflection questions. I'm just kind of curious. What do you feel like you've done a lot at IU and IU Sports Media? What do you feel like is your biggest accomplishment in Bloomington over the last 4 years?
I mean, I'm really proud of just all of the sports that I've covered, the whole range of teams and events that I've been able to go to. I've covered Big Ten football both in Bloomington and on the road. I've been able to be in an assembly hall, doing live broadcasts and doing post game recaps. I went to a professional game in Bankers Life Fieldhouse as a member of the media. So I think what I'm most proud of is just the ability that I've had to, and the opportunities that I've had to cover this entire range of sports and be able to be a part of IU athletics, not necessarily on the field, obviously, because, I'm not built for that, but being able to be a part of it behind the scenes and just being able to, connect to all these different teams and groups of people and these incredible organizations.
Yeah, well, I think all of us in sports media know we don't belong actually on the field, and that's why we went into broadcasting. I guess, do you have a memory or a story of something that will stand out from your last 4 years of working in sports media?
Yeah, some of my favorite memories just have to do with sports, being able to be on the field. In terms of media, I still think the most fun that I've had would have had to be the 2019 bucket game, IU versus Purdue. That's in West Lafayette, and that game went into double overtime. Peyton Ramsey lifted the team to the win. He had that rushing touchdown right at the end of the game, and I got to be down there on the field, at Purdue to cover that event. And I just remember it was cold and it was wet because it had been raining on and off that entire time. I had my camera wrapped in a plastic garbage bag because I couldn't check out one of the rain protectors at the time because I think I was over Thanksgiving break. So it was sort of chaos to start, but it was so much fun to be a part of it. And I remember at the end of the game, I'm thinking, don't go into overtime. I'm freezing cold. And by the time we got into double overtime, it was, I can't feel my toes anyways. What else do I have to lose? And so I was just having such fun out there covering that game and being able to report on it. And then when IU scored that go-ahead touchdown, or the game-winning touchdown more so, the Hoosiers rushed the field. They celebrated with the bucket, and I just got to be a part of that experience and really a part of that team atmosphere. I mean, I still love Watt Fillier ran over to my camera and sort of headbutted it and was just yelling like, stop playing with us. We're legitimate. We're nothing to be played with. And just to be a part of that atmosphere, so infectious. The team was just so happy to be there, to be a part of that unit. And I was just standing there in the middle of that that mess of chaos but it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was certainly a memorable game. And going off that, you covered IU football for IUSTV, and now they've had a great season last season and a incredible breakout season this year. What's just been your thoughts on this team's meteoric rise over the last 2 years, and especially this memorable season where just yesterday they're now number 7 in the country, which is hard to believe in the AP poll.
Oh yeah, this team is absolutely incredible, and they're just so much fun to watch. And I love Tom Allen. I guess that's really at the heart of it is Tom Allen has just built this program up, and I'm so excited to see it. And the idea, love each other. I know that's hit on so often, but there is a reason, and that reason is because it's true and it works. And this team just truly cares. They want to be there. They believe they can win every game. And they've shown that not only do they have the talent to do so, but they have the drive as well. And it's one of those teams where, you're never going to have an off day because everyone is always, working together on the same page, and they always give it their all. There's never a lack of effort. And I'm just so happy that I get to be a part of this fan base and being able to follow this program now. Because it's not something I would have ever expected when I said, 3-4 years ago, I'm going to IU and the football team's going to be ranked in the top 10 in a few years. Like, that was never in the back of my mind. So I'm really excited to be here now and just to be able to see it. I mean, that this team is truly something special.
It's truly been something remarkable, and glad that you were able to stick around just in time to be able to watch these last couple years. And, we have a lot of freshmen and sophomores currently at the IU Media School, and certainly some people watching that are younger in sports media. What advice would you give them for having success in sports media and just enjoying their time at IU overall?
Yeah, I think the biggest advice that I have is just, don't be afraid to go after any opportunity that you see, whether you feel like you deserve it or not. Because a lot of times you're not valuing yourself as highly. At least that's sort of the situation that I came into. And be willing to try all sorts of different avenues and different paths to get to where you want. Because I came in thinking I'm going to be a sports broadcaster and I'm just going to see how I get there. And over time, I was able to do some writing, and my writing took me to the tennis team, and I fell in love with covering the tennis team. I got to do that with video reporting for a while. I never thought I'd be directing or producing by any means, and then working into news. And so there's all sorts of opportunities that IU has. And I know just a lot of them are sort of thrown at your face immediately, but don't hesitate to go up and try something. Worst case scenario, you go to a few meetings, it's not for you, and you move on and try something else. And the other thing is, on a similar note, don't be afraid to go up to people who are in these positions of, more authority, whether that's a professor or just another student, another director, because everyone at IU is there to help each other. The professors are there to help you, the advisors as well, and even other students. They're just in the same situation that you were in a year or two ago. And while they may be super intimidating, being like 2 or 3 years older and having this extra experience, they are just figuring it out in the same way that you are. So don't be afraid to reach out and form these connections just with the simple, hi, my name is so-and-so. Here's what I'm interested. What can I do?
That's great advice. One thing that's been challenging for a lot of people over this last year is just producing media and sports media, with both a lack of sports over the last year. And also it's more challenging, especially with video, which is your primary focus, just because you can't get in person as much. There's just not as much to film. How have you gone about maybe being more creative producing media? And what's your advice as well to people that are potentially looking to get into video, but it's much more challenging right now than it has been in the past?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have to get creative right now, especially on a sports end, because, within college, football and basketball are back, I guess, but we're still waiting on some of these others. So yeah, creativity is sort of the key. I think the biggest thing that we can do right now is look for the stories and actively hunt them out within teams, within people, because at the end of the day, our job is storytelling, but it's about the people that make up these stories. It's about the redshirt junior on the women's basketball team who was recruited out of the middle of nowhere and is now, making her first start. And even if she's not playing right now, there's other stuff you can do. Some of my favorite pieces I've seen is, I remember a piece on the volleyball team from Haley Jordan. She put together a piece that was just about one of the volleyball players became TikTok famous. So that's not something that, you go out and just cover the team each week that you're going to find. But there's all these stories. I mean, everyone has their story, and it's just a matter of finding it. And right now in the middle of a pandemic where, something like the volleyball team isn't playing right now, I mean, you have to go out and find those stories within those people, and they all exist. It's just a matter of digging a little deeper, maybe reaching out and talking to some people. Just from my experience with the tennis team, I thought it'd be fun to put together a bracket challenge for the US Open. It didn't hit. I don't think a bunch of people watched the video. I enjoyed making it. It was creative content. And then through that, I found out that, some of these tennis players are training with professional guys, even while they're still at the college level. So there's all sorts of stories that you just have to be willing to go out and try and make those connections and see what comes up. And then even with this pandemic, obviously it affects so many people, but it's once again affecting these teams, affecting these players. So the lack of sports is essentially a story within sports. So there's a lot you can do. And if you're struggling to find something, my sort of goes back to my advice earlier. Don't hesitate to reach out to people, whether they be your professors, your advisors, or just other students, because at the end of the day, we're all on the same team. We all have the same goal, and that's to be able to tell these stories and further connect with these teams, sports, organizations that we know and love.
You mentioned earlier, Drew, that you'll be going out into the actual workforce once you graduate. I won't pressure you to get into your specific job search, but I am wondering, if you could have a dream job in sports media, what would that be?
That's a good question. That's something that I've had to think about a lot, because I've always had sort of the next step goal in mind, but I'd never really put a big focus on the end goal, which I know usually it's the other way around. Usually it's I have this dream and we'll see how I get there, but I've sort of been taking it smaller. But I know that I want to work in sports media. I want to be able to continue to tell stories. So right now, I think those main paths that puts me on would be working within local news, within local sports, and being able to sort of make those connections, work my way up to a bigger market eventually. I'll definitely end up starting a little smaller, but I plan to work my way up. Or even, working for an organization that's able to tell those stories, whether that's USTA or MLB or, a team or a club here or there. If I'm able to continue to use video to, connect people to sports, that is my end goal. So I don't have necessarily a particular position that I know, this is the goal that I want to hit, but I do have an idea of where I want to end up and the sort of role that I want to be in.
Oh, that's very wise thinking. You mentioned tennis. I know you love tennis, so I wanted this segment's about you. I just wanted to spend a little time talking tennis because I also enjoy talking tennis myself. Oh, yeah. Just kind of a question about on the men's side that I'm curious, and I think you have such great knowledge of the game. We the big three have been so dominant in men's tennis for basically our entire lives. It feels like we're starting to see some young guys come up. Who out of that so-called next gen would you say is the player that you think is going to kind of rise to the top? And I guess maybe at the end of their era, who's going to be the next Roger Federer, or at least get close to that? I'm not sure anyone's going to be the next Roger Federer, but
right. Yeah, that's tough. If I'm allowed to take the easy answer, Dominic Thiem. I mean, he just won the US Open, so I don't know if that really counts as next gen. He's also getting into his mid-20s. But yeah, if we're looking younger down the line, I've really loved what I've seen out of Jannik Sinner. He's an Italian player, still in his late teen, early 20 years, and already showing up and winning tournaments. One of my favorite players that I love following is Denis Shapovalov, a Canadian. He's I think he's about a month older or younger than, I think a month older than me. So that's sort of scary to watch, the amount of success that he's having at that level. But he's just so fun because he has all of the pieces to beat anyone. It's just a matter of putting them all together, and we'll see what sort of how long that takes for him to do that. But yeah, there's a ton of young guys that are coming up on the tour, and I know Alex de Minaur and an Aussie. He's another fun one to watch, and I've heard other players on the tour just talk about how intimidating he is to play, even though it's not like he's all that big or tall or has any particular strength. It's more that he just doesn't have weaknesses, and so he's been a lot of fun to watch too, because when he gets rolling, it's he's a brick wall, and it's hard to beat. So yeah, there's a lot of guys I'm looking forward to, and I think the problem though is these next gen guys still might be too old to be able to take over, because we don't know how Federer's doing with injuries, but Nadal is going to be winning French Opens till he's 50. And and Djokovic hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. I mean, this was his career year, and at this point in most people's career, that's when they start to decline. And Djokovic is now seemingly just getting started. So it might be another 10 years before we really get a set of guys who don't have to worry about competing against Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic.
It's such an interesting storyline on the men's game now, with the next wave trying to come in and knock out the old traditional dominant powerhouses. On the women's side, everyone loves talking about Serena, and I think the big question is she going to be able to win another major?
Yeah, I hope she is, because she's had such a successful career. I think Serena is the best woman to ever play tennis, like hands down. The problem is it's still sort of up for debate when you look at some of the records. And I think if she wins one more Grand Slam, she'll have sole control of the Grand Slam titles record. So I want her to get it for that case. I want her to further solidify her status as the best to ever play it. She was so dominant for such a strong period of time, and it's just been like one or two small things that has derailed her chances of winning that other title in these past few years. After she gave birth to her daughter, she's made a couple finals, a couple semis, just something here or there went wrong, some injuries. I think she still has the capability to do it. I think the difference, though, is in the past, it was sort of a given. Serena's the best. She's going to win this tournament. The rest of the women's field was sort of chaos. The 4 seed could get upset by someone ranked in the 200s on any given day, and you never knew. And I think that sort of chaotic parity, in a way, I think Serena has now fallen back down to that level. So I think she has just the same shot as it's going to be a little more difficult for her, because she's now in a position where she's got the same odds as everyone. She's not that step above. So to answer your question, I think she definitely can. It's going to be a beautiful moment when it does. We just don't really know when it will happen. Unlike in the past, where it was like, well, she's got 4 tournaments next year, she's going to win at least 2 or 3 of them. Now it's just, we'll see what happens, and she'll keep making semis, she'll keep making finals, but I do think eventually she'll break through and get one more.
All right, to finish off the show, I wanted to do a little game, a little rapid fire to get to know you a little better and get a little more thoughts on your last 4 years in Bloomington. So, going to give you some questions, maybe try to hold it to around 30 seconds, though I know you always ask people to do this on the toss-up, and their answers are always too long. So I won't cut you off if you go a little long, because I always do when I get questions. So anyways, first one for you, over your 4 years, who is your favorite IU player that you've covered?
Oh, that's a good question. I say it's got to be Walt Fillier on the football team. He's just a ball of energy that never stops. He's one of those guys that, when he's out on the field, not only you expect him to make plays and he's so much fun, but even off the field, he just makes your day a little brighter. I was able to catch punts with him, just a punt returning video. And he was so much fun. He was encouraging me. He made me feel like I was good at this, which I definitely wasn't. But yeah, it definitely has to be Watt Failure just for, how infectious he is, both on and off the field.
All right. How about your favorite non-sports media class at IU? There's so many interesting, strange classes at IU. What's your favorite that you've taken over 4 years?
Oh, I'm gonna go with a class I took. I believe it was in the folklore department, but it was about like the portrayals of evil in fiction and literature and just and film. So it was the idea of how we represent the idea of evil, and that went from everywhere from monsters to just acts of humanity. And we watched a bunch of different films in there, some like 1940s religious Polish films, from stuff like that all the way up to like Clockwork Orange. And I got to write a little bit about some of my favorite books and storylines and that sort of stuff, Marvel and Harry Potter and Percy Jackson and that whole field. So that was fun. It wasn't all that like high stress, but it was it led to some really interesting discussions and some really interesting, works of literature that I was able to follow.
Sounds like a fun class. People don't realize how many interesting classes you can take at IU. I was thinking though of maybe making you talk in Spanish because I know you're a Spanish minor, but decided you probably have enough stress going on already.
I don't want to embarrass myself. Just knowing me, I would find a way to just like completely forget like the easiest phrase or just butcher a word. And then like 20 minutes from now, I'll just be sitting there being like, that's not what that means.
I wouldn't want to be tested on my Spanish either at this point either. So I don't blame you. We'll go to the next question. What is your go-to dining hall if you're in need for a quick meal on the IU campus?
If I'm in need for a quick meal, I know this is probably the wrong answer, but I would go to Wright Food Court, and that's just because I spent two more years actually in that area. I lived in Teeter my freshman and sophomore year, so I'm very familiar with Wright. And in terms of just quickness and ease, Wright was right there. But in terms of quality, I would go to Forest because on the totem pole, I think Wright Food Court's near the bottom in quality. But that didn't stop me. It was fine. It worked for what I needed it to do. I could go there and just pick up like a slice of pizza and a strawberry milk, the meal of champions. But yeah, so Wright is the one that I'm definitely the most familiar with. It was weird this past year when I was on campus, occasionally I'd be like, I could just stop at a food court, and I couldn't. It was, carry out dining essentially. So it wasn't the same thing. I missed a part of that, but I still think some of my favorite experiences though was going up to Gresham and the Denny's, because that was, say what you will about Denny's, but compared to some of the stuff in Wright Food Court, Denny's is quality food.
All right, next question for you. Favorite spot in Bloomington? It can be campus, off campus, anywhere in the town.
Oh, favorite spot in Bloomington? I think I'm going to stick on campus. I spent a lot of my time on campus, and I'm going to go with Showalter Fountain, because if it's just a beautiful day out, you can go and sit by the fountain. If it's on and there's a little bit of wind, you can get misted. And if it's the middle of the winter, you can hop in and it's completely empty. And people might give you weird looks, but I don't know. I'm talking from personal experience at this point. I don't know why I'm saying you. I was the one jumping in the fountain when there was snow in it. But yeah, I just, in a normal circumstance, that area is really nice. The sound of the water running when there is water running is sort of relaxing, and just when it's a beautiful day, it's a beautiful spot to be in on campus just to relax or get some work done.
How much snow was there when you were jumping in the fountain? Did you steal any fish along the way?
No, I couldn't get a hold of the fish. What I've learned is actually not from me doing it, but from other people doing it, is if you put pressure on any of the fish, if you like grab them or hold on to them, that automatically sets off a sensor that calls the police.
Really?
So I've been like sitting by the fountain, and then the police show up. And we're like, oh, like, what's wrong? Did we do something wrong? And they're like, no, just don't grab the fish. They're like, you can stand on the statue of Venus. You just can't grab the fish. So for anyone watching that's the rule. You can jump in the fountain all you want, just don't grab any fish. But yeah, it wasn't that snowy. Maybe like an inch or two. The biggest issue was getting in and out because the snow was on the edge, and I didn't want to slide like head first into the stone. But yeah, I like jumping in the fountain. Just I think at this point, it's just so like, because I've been in the fountain when there was water in it, sort of like the freshman routine of get a group of friends, go in the fountain. So I always just thought it was entertaining when there wasn't water in it, just to be in it because there's no harm in it. It's just fun to hang out in the area. I don't know, it's sort of the aesthetic of it, I guess.
That is a fun story. It's certainly a good spot. And for those that don't know, but I think if anyone spent any time at IU, they know the story of one fish is missing around the fountain. It was taken on the night that IU basketball last won the national championship in, I should know this off the top of my head, I want to say 1983, but I might be just off.
Sometime in the 80s. Right.
Sometime in the 80s, with Steve Alford as the starting point guard. But anyways, the fish has been missing since then. The rumor was that when Bob Knight returned to campus, it would come back. That happened in February. The fish did not come back. So we still don't know where it is. Hopefully it's not in Drew's basement, but because he does seem to know a lot about the fountain.
I still like the theory, though, that whenever IU wins another national championship, the fish will be returned.
That's a good one, too.
Realistically, I think it's long gone. If someone's been able to hide that for 40 years now, 30 to 40 years, I that's got to be the best kept secret in the world. I don't know how you can maintain that, but maybe one day in our lifetime we'll figure out where it went and if it's ever coming back.
I guess my question with that legend, thinking about it now, is the national championship only apply to men's basketball, or what about football? Would it come back then too?
Ooh. Yeah, or women's basketball might have the best shot at it out of the teams right now.
That might be.
Well, the football team's in the top 10, and that's so much fun to watch. There's still that extra, level to hit with that being Alabama or Clemson, Notre Dame, that group. And with the women's and also the college football committee, which has a lot of say in it. With the women's basketball tournament, I mean, they beat the number 1 team, South Carolina, last year, something no one else had done. And this team could enter the tournament realistically 3 or a 4 seed. That's my guess as of December. It's doable. You get hot for a couple of games. The women's basketball team probably has the best path to a championship out of any of those, major sports that are playing right now in IU.
That's a great point. One final question for you, Drew, and then I'll let you go. You be out of college in about 5 days. What are you most excited to do now that you won't be a college student?
Oh, that's a good question. This is probably a really dumb answer, but I know it's something I kind of could do in the past, but just in terms of when I get my own place and, I get everything set up, one of them is just sort of the idea that I'll have my own apartment, hopefully, and I won't really have to worry about RPS or worry about, RAs, which I went back. It was my mistake. I went back to living on campus this past semester, so I sort of had that coming. But yeah, just I can do laundry in the middle of the night if I feel like it. I can use my toaster. That's something. I can never use a toaster in the dorms, and then I didn't have a toaster on campus with me last year. I feel like toaster is the wrong answer to your question. Like, I know there's no right answer, but I'm pretty sure toaster is the wrong answer. But I guess to give you a more realistic answer, what I'm looking forward to is, getting that first job, setting up my own sort of responsibilities. I know that like I did my best to be responsible on campus, in terms of, my eating schedule, my sleep schedule, my work schedule, all of that. But it was a little all over the place, and I would end up at the media school at 11:30 midnight, and then I would sleep for like 12 hours on a Saturday. It was sort of all over the place. So I guess what I'm looking forward to is actually setting myself a routine and moving forward into adult life with my adult responsibilities. So I don't know if I gave you. I might want to stick with toaster. I think that was the more fun answer. But yeah, it'll be a process over these next few weeks, months, however long. But I am looking forward to it because once I take that next step, I think I'm gonna be able to set myself into a better routine and really get going on my work.
I will say, Drew, I moved from on campus to off campus this year, and I think my current toaster in my apartment is the most utilized object in my entire apartment. I use it every single day. So I totally get where you're coming from there.
There was a point freshman year where I'm just like, I have these Eggo waffles. I might just microwave them because what else am I going to do? So I tried getting creative my freshman year, but yeah, I know last year without the toaster, it just more became a matter of like going through the groceries, being like, all right, what food is close to being able to be toasted without actually requiring the toaster? Yeah, I feel like I've gone a little too far in on this toaster, but that's where we are,
I didn't expect we were going to spend 5 minutes talking about toasters today, but Drew, you had so much great advice you provided today. It was fun to hear some of your stories and know that you've left a real impact on the IU Media School and so many people in sports media. So really appreciate you and really appreciate you coming on today.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate that. And thanks for having me on. It's been a lot of fun, being a part of IU. I guess I still have a week or so not done yet. But yeah, it's been absolutely wonderful. I've loved all the opportunities I've had. And yeah, once again, my advice to everybody is go after those opportunities yourself and just see what comes up and capitalize it on it if you can. So yeah, Griffin, thank you so much for having me. Just running the show in general. It's been fun to watch. I'll continue to watch it, and it's been great to be a part of. And I look forward to seeing what you do as well for your next few years. You're already killing it now, and you've still got plenty.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that, Drew. Appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, of course.
That will do it today for our episode of Unpaid Interns. We're going to be back on Wednesday with another senior spotlight, highlighting another graduating IU sports media senior here on the last week of classes in the fall 2020 semester. Until then, take care, and we'll talk to you again on Wednesday.